Baton Rouge is the site for our game of the week, where another top 10 showdown is taking place in Death Valley. We preview it all next on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, bringing you some of the best college football news, predictions, and analysis. Go check us out on Twitter at Gridiron Expert, and also go check out our official website, thegridironexpert.com, where you can sign up for our weekly newsletter and also sign up for our expert picks. The links for all those things are in the description below, so do not miss out on any of the extra fun and any of the extra college football content. Well, guys, we have another huge top 10 showdown in Death Valley this week. Just a few weeks ago, we have Florida and LSU facing off in Death Valley, a top 10 showdown that had major SEC standing and college football playoff implications. We have another one once again in Death Valley as number 9 Auburn travels to take on the second-ranked LSU Tigers. And as always, we're going to break down this entire game, breaking down the offensive side of the ball, the defensive side of the ball, and the keys for both teams if they want to get this crucial conference victory and a crucial resume-boosting win for both programs. Now, it should be noted that, in my opinion, this is a bigger game for Auburn than it is for LSU. And the reason we say that is because neither LSU or Auburn has faced off against Alabama this season. Of course, Auburn will face off against them in the season finale in the Iron Bowl. LSU will face off against them in just a few weeks, getting a bye week after this Auburn game, facing off against the Crimson Tide on November 9th. But Auburn already has one conference loss, that of course coming to the hands of Florida. A loss here for the Tigers would end their SEC title hopes, as I don't believe LSU or Alabama is going to lose 2 more times over the course of this season. If LSU were to lose this game, they could still be in the hunt for the SEC title, because if they were to beat Alabama on November 9th, which is extremely possible, probably the best chance the Tigers have had in a very long time, then right there you would have practically a 3-way tie between the Crimson Tide, the Auburn Tigers, and the LSU Tigers. So if Auburn wins this game, it would create chaos in the SEC West. So a bigger game, in my opinion, for Auburn to keep their college football playoff hopes and SEC title hopes alive. LSU still has a slight room for error, although getting a win here would be huge for this program. Now, it should be noted that the home team, so of course being LSU in this one, has won 16 of the last 19 games. Now, that 5-game winning streak for the home team was snapped last year as LSU actually went on the road and upset Auburn 22-21, winning on a game-winning field goal as time expired. It should also be noted that LSU is 12-5 when both Auburn and LSU face off as top 25 members. So keep that in mind. LSU has thrived in the big games, thrived in the big moments, and getting this game at Death Valley in Baton Rouge might be one of the biggest difference makers in this crucial matchup. As we mentioned, LSU won last year. They also won the last meeting back in Death Valley back in 2017, where they beat Auburn 27-23. That one was a bigger upset than it was last year, as LSU was not ranked and Auburn was the 10th ranked team in the country. So a couple stats and a little bit of a backstory on this history and what's happened in recent years between the two Tiger squads and how LSU has taken care of business as of late. Now, of course, we're going to start on the offensive side of the ball like we always do, and I can tell you already that LSU has the huge edge, not only just across the board offensively, but certainly at the quarterback position, and that's to be expected when you've got a guy like Joe Burrow, who for many, not us yet, but for many is the front runner for the Heisman Trophy. Burrow already breaking the LSU season record for touchdown passes in a season. 29 touchdowns this season. He's still got about 5 games remaining on his schedule just in the regular season. Thrown for over 2,400 yards, nearly 2,500, 29 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions. He takes very good care of the football. He's leading an offense that's averaging 50.1 points per game. And the great thing for Joe Burrow is that he could handle it all by himself. If LSU didn't have a run game, he could handle this offense by himself. But LSU is now finding their run game. It's kind of emerged in recent weeks. The Tigers have 154.1 rushing yards per game. That's what they're averaging. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire is certainly leading the way in the backfield for the Tigers. So watch out for their run game. Everybody wants to focus on LSU in that passing attack, but their run game is something that cannot be ignored. Now, of course, Auburn has done fairly well on the offensive side of the ball, led by a true freshman quarterback in Bo Nix. So when you are dealt that kind of circumstance, when you're dealt with a first-year quarterback, he's doing pretty good considering the circumstances. He has over 1,300 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions this season. But listen to these stats. These are the stats that concern me the most for Bo Nix coming into this game against LSU. A game that I think, a couple of weeks ago we said that Florida was the toughest test for Auburn, was the toughest test for Bo Nix, being the most difficult environment he would have played in to date, would have been the best defense he would have faced to date. LSU might change all that. I don't know if I'd go as far and say that LSU's secondary is better than Florida's quite yet, but the environment by far, Death Valley, whether it's at a 2:30 game like this one will be or at night, one of the most difficult places to play in the entire country. So Bo Nix, in his two biggest games this season against Oregon and Florida, he struggled. Against Oregon, he went 13 for 31, 177 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. On the road against Florida just a few weeks ago, Bo Nix went 11 for 27, 145 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions. So you combine all those stats together, he's just 24 for 58, 41.3% completion percentage, 322 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. That's not good. That's not good at all. It's great that he can put up big stats against teams like Arkansas, Mississippi State, Tulane, Kent State. That's fantastic. But if Auburn wants to get over the hump, if they want to win this crucial game against LSU, if they want to contend against Alabama, they've got to get better quarterback play out of Bo Nix. And once again, I get he's a true freshman. He's going to get better as the years goes on. He's going to get better under Gus Malzahn going into next season. But we're not talking about next season. Auburn wants immediate success. Auburn wants to be in the playoff. They want to win the SEC, and they are in a prime opportunity to do that. But to do that, Bo Nix has to step it up on the road in Death Valley against the LSU defense that we said maybe isn't as good as Florida, but is still one of the best in the entire SEC and maybe in the entire nation. So Bo Nix has to step it up in this game, especially when you're going up against a defense like LSU that allows just 20 points per game and has forced 11 turnovers this season. So keep that in mind. 20 points per game, not fantastic, but not bad either. It's right mediocre. Pretty dang good when you're playing in the rugged SEC West. 11 turnovers, and they forced 2 interceptions from Garrett Schrader last week, the Mississippi State quarterback. Of course, he's a young quarterback as well, hasn't had much playing experience, and that was in Starkville. So imagine what LSU could possibly do to Bo Nix this week. Picking off Schrader last week, 3 total turnovers for that Mississippi State offense. Can they force a lot this week against Auburn? Now, the crazy thing, look, when you're comparing the two defenses between Auburn and LSU, is that statistically, when you're just looking at the numbers, they're practically exactly alike. It's pretty insane, actually. Auburn's allowing an average of 224.7 passing yards per game. LSU's allowing an average of 226.1 passing yards per game. So less than 2-yard difference there when you're looking at the averages. Their rushing defense, Auburn allows 94.3 rushing yards per game, while LSU allows 93.3 rushing yards per game. So total, Auburn's allowing 319 yards per game, LSU's allowing 319.4 rushing yards per game. 0.4 of a yard, guys, separates the total. And I get stats. Some people don't like to look at the stats. Some people think that stats don't mean anything. But at the beginning of the season, maybe not. One game doesn't define a team. One game doesn't define how good a team is, especially because you have those stat pattern games against some of the weaker opponents. But when you're 7 or 8 games into a season, these stats do matter. They're a sign of things to come. They're a sign of how a team may show up. A team that's allowing, 250 yards on the ground per game isn't going to show up and allow less than 100 the next game. It's happened before, but more than likely that's not going to happen. So these stats do matter and do play a role into what to expect from each respective squad. So the fact that these two teams are so evenly matched defensively makes me think that there's a good chance this could be somewhat of a low-scoring battle. Maybe Auburn can finally shut down Joe Burrow, something that not many teams have been able to do. Really, no team has been able to do so far this season. And maybe LSU is going to be able to shut down Bo Nix and this Auburn offense, and they're just going to be trading 3-and-outs, trading punts, Like I said, last year it was 22-21. That's not very high scoring. You might be expecting a fairly low-scoring matchup once again in Death Valley. So let's take a look at the keys for this game. The keys for Auburn if they want to win, and the keys for LSU if they want to win. We'll start with Auburn, the away team. We'll give them the credit here. Auburn's key to this game is solely their defense. Solely their defense. One of the better defensive lines in the entire country. They dominated Arkansas last week. And once again, I get it is just Arkansas, but keep in mind that's still an SEC opponent. That's still an SEC opponent that they dominated on the road. I don't care what conference you're in, what team you're facing off against. Anything can happen on any given Saturday. Auburn showed up and got the job done. So the defense is their key. With that defensive line, they've got to get pressure on Joe Burrow. Once again, something that not many teams, if any teams, have been able to do and been able to do consistently. So get them to force pressure on Joe Burrow and get LSU to run more. If you can take away that pass game, which is obviously the key for LSU's offense, and you force a guy like Clyde Edwards-Helaire to kind of focus more on the run, Auburn might have a very solid chance in this one. And if you force him to run going up against that stout Auburn rushing defense, LSU could have a very difficult day offensively. Finally, for Auburn, like we mentioned earlier, Bo Nix has to take care of the football. 5 turnovers between the Oregon and Florida game. Arguably their 2 biggest games. They're lucky to have escaped with that win over Oregon. If he cannot take care of the football, it's going to be a long day for Auburn and could turn ugly very quickly. Now for LSU, the key for them is just to keep doing what they've been doing. Don't change anything up. Don't get cute. You're on 2:30 CBS at home, number 2 team in the country. Don't screw anything up. Stick to your game plan because you're going to keep doing what you're doing until someone stops it, until it doesn't work anymore. Why go away from something that's working? And LSU and Ed Ogeron know that. So they're going to throw this ball. They're going to try to, they say run it down your throat. LSU's going to try to throw it down Auburn's throat in this one. The biggest one for this one for LSU is also to not allow big yards after the catch. I don't believe that Bo Nix is quite there yet to beat LSU on the deep ball. To chunk it 50 yards down the field, curate big plays. But Auburn has the speed to create a 5-yard slant and turn it into a 20-25-yard gain. So LSU has to be able to shut down Auburn in the sense of not allowing yards after the catch, not missing tackles, making the tackles in the open field, making sure you're covering your assignments. If they can slow that down, and when Bo Nix throws a 5-yard slant, it really is a 5-yard slant, or when he throws a quick screen, they're only getting 2 or 3 yards, or better yet, negative yards on that play, that's what LSU has to do defensively to shut down Auburn. Gus Malzahn's an offensive mastermind. He knows the task that he's going up against. This is not new territory for him. We've seen him do it before, and he can do it again. How will LSU's defense be prepared for it? And then finally, LSU, on top of creating turnovers, which could probably come from Bo Nix, is just forcing Bo Nix to win this game through the air, which kind of ties into what we said at the beginning of the keys for LSU. Auburn averages 239.6 rushing yards per game. So even though the passing game has steadily improved a little bit in some of the mediocre games for Auburn, mediocre opponents, their rushing game has still been their key. LSU, like we said, is allowing 93.3 rushing yards per game. That's not a lot. You shut down that run game, I don't believe Bo Nix can win this game solely through the air. He didn't show me he could do that against Oregon. He didn't show me he could do that against Florida. I don't think he can do it at Death Valley. I know it's in the middle of the day, but regardless, at Death Valley against the number 2 team in the country. LSU escapes with a win here. They're about 11.5-point favorites. I expect them to win this game somewhere in between 7 to 17 points, so somewhere in there. So for those of you that are looking for spread picks that's not on our expert picks, and we're being very vague, I know, but the most important thing is that LSU does escape with a win here. Auburn, with this loss, is more than likely eliminated from not only the college football playoff race, but also the SEC title race. LSU, though, sets up a date, what should be a battle of the unbeatens, battle of the game of the century on November 9th against Alabama at Bryant-Denny Stadium. So, guys, thank you for watching us here on YouTube. Go check us out on Twitter at Gridiron Expert. And, of course, go check out the official website, thegridironexpert.com. Sign up for the weekly newsletter and sign up for the expert picks. And, guys, as always, thank you for watching. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time on the Gridiron Expert.